Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time we're looking at the Whispering Castle, and specifically episode 1, The Cursed Wizard.
Ooh. Okay, yeah, I loved that one.
I know, it's so good. We're going to be talking about magic and betrayal and this wizard whose ambition kind of took a dark turn.
Yeah, this episode just like throws you into the atmosphere right away. It's like you can hear the wind and the thunder.
Oh, totally. And the sound design is just incredible, like you said. It's like they created this whole creepy world using just sound effects.
Exactly. And speaking of creepy, can we talk about Thalion?
Yes, Thalion the Forgotten, this cursed wizard.
I was just thinking how much his story is like those classic myths. You know, like the idea that you can't just search for forbidden knowledge without consequences.
Right. Like he was this well-respected wizard living in a huge castle surrounded by magic and other scholars.
Yeah.
But his ambition, it got the best of him.
It makes you wonder what would push someone that far to risk everything they have for power or immortality.
Right. Was there something specific that happened to him? Or was he always a little power hungry?
That's what I love about this story. It makes you think about the characters and what motivates them.
Yeah. The podcast mentioned that Thalion did this really dangerous ritual trying to become immortal, but it backfired. Instead of getting eternal life, he's trapped in the castle forever.
Wow. Talk about a deal with the devil gone wrong.
Right. It's like the story of Icarus flying too close to the sun, or even today with scientists and ethics,
Yeah.
It feels like humanity has always been fascinated by ambition, but also really scared of what it can lead to.
That's so true. And even though the castle is in ruins centuries later, Thalion is still there. His whispers can be heard all over the place, like the castle itself is haunted by him and what he did.
It's like that saying, be careful what you wish for. He wanted to live forever, and now he is, but he's completely alone and trapped.
Right. And can you imagine just stumbling across this abandoned castle, like you're looking for shelter from a storm or something, and suddenly you hear a voice in your head?
Yeah. Thalion's voice now.
The way they use sound in the podcast is amazing. You don't just hear Thalion's voice. You feel him there, watching you, almost like you're trapped with him.
Oh, it's so creepy. When he first talks to Mira, she literally freezes. And then he says, the castle will never let you go. Once you enter, you are a part of me.
What a line. And we know Thalion is cursed, right? Like his mind isn't really his own anymore. So what does it even mean to be a part of him? Is he trying to control the people who come into the castle?
It's scary. And we have to remember that Mary isn't just wandering around. She's there looking for an ancient relic.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. What if the relic is connected to the curse somehow?
Right. Or what if she needs to find it to escape?
Ooh, that's good. Maybe it's the key to breaking the curse.
I love that they don't tell us everything right away. It makes it so mysterious.
And it makes you want to keep listening. We're worried about Mira and what will happen to her. But there's also all this bigger stuff going on.
Yeah. It's like we're only seeing a tiny part of the story, and we want to know more. I have to admit, I'm kind of rooting for Mira. I want her to be clever enough to get away from Thalion.
Me too. She seems really brave, even though she's terrified. But then you remember that Thalion has been there for centuries.
He knows every corner of that place.
And he can probably anticipate everything she's going to do. Does she actually have a chance?
I know, and that's where the first episode ends. It's such a cliffhanger. Will she get away? Will she find the relic? What's going to happen?
Oh, I know. It's like the worst kind of cliffhanger. The kind that makes you want to binge the entire show just to find out what happens next.
Okay, so we have to talk about something important here. Thalion sounds really scary and threatening. But I noticed something else, too. It's almost like you can hear some regret in his voice, like he wishes he hadn't done the ritual.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Huh. I didn't pick up on that. But now that you mention it, it's almost like there's still some humanity left in him, even after all this time. Do you think it's real, though? Or is it just part of the curse?
That is a great question. Is it genuine remorse or just another way to manipulate Mira?
Right, like maybe he's trying to make her feel sorry for him so she'll let her guard down.
Oh, that's good. It makes you question everything. Is there any way he can redeem himself?
That's the classic struggle, isn't it? Good versus evil, light versus dark. But what if it's all happening inside one person?
Yeah. It's like Darth Vader. He was so evil for so long, but in the end, he found a way to come back to the light. Is it possible for Thalion to do the same thing?
I don't know, but I can't wait to find out. And that brings us to a really interesting question for our listeners. What would you do if you were Mira? Would you run? Or would you try to learn more about Thalion and the castle?
It's a tough choice. On the one hand, you have this super powerful wizard who's clearly dangerous. But on the other hand, there's this mystery that you just have to solve.
And I think that's what makes the Whispering Castle so good.
Hmm.
It's terrifying, but also kind of addictive. You can't look away.
Right. It's like those haunted house stories where people are drawn to them even though they know it's dangerous.
I think it's that human fascination with secrets. We want to know what's hidden, what's forbidden.
And speaking of secrets, we can't forget that Mira is looking for something specific. That ancient relic.
Yeah, that adds another layer to the whole story.
Right. What is that relic? Is it connected to the curse? Does Thalion want to keep it hidden? Or maybe it's the key to everything.
Ooh, the possibilities. What I love about the Whispering Castle is how it mixes personal stories with these big, epic ideas.
Mm-hmm.
We have Mira trying to survive, but there's also this hint that something much bigger is at play. Like the fate of the world depends on it.
Right. And the writers are so good at giving us just enough information to keep us guessing. It's like we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg.
They're masters at balancing the small personal stuff with the big epic stuff.
You end up caring about both.
Totally. I think we all want to see Mira succeed, right? We want her to be smarter than Thalion, to figure out the secrets of the castle, and maybe even help him break the curse. Definitely. She's like the underdog in this whole situation. And even though she's scared, you can tell she's really determined. She's clever and quick thinking, and sometimes you really think she might just pull it off.
But then Thalion throws a curveball. He's been there for so long, and he's always one step ahead. It's like he's playing a game with her.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so suspenseful. You never know who has the upper hand. Is Mira falling into his trap, or is she slowly learning how to beat him?
And then the episode ends. It's such a frustrating cliffhanger. Will she escape? Will she even find the relic?
And even if she does get away, don't you think the experience will change her? It feels like the Whispering Castle leaves a mark on everyone who goes there, whether they wanted to or not.
You know, that makes me think about trauma. Even when you escape a dangerous situation, the memories stay with you, the fear lingers.
That's a really interesting point.
Yeah.
The Whispering Castle isn't just a physical place, it's a state of mind. It represents our own fears and secrets and the choices we make.
It's like the castle is a character itself, a reflection of Thalion's inner turmoil. And in a way, it forces Mira to confront her own fears and desires.
What's so cool is how they use this fictional story to talk about real human experiences. We all have our own whispering castles, those places inside us where we deal with our past and our regrets.
That's so true. We might not be fighting wizards or looking for ancient relics, but we all have to deal with ambition and consequences, and the possibility of darkness and redemption inside ourselves.
Think about a time when you had to make a really hard choice, something that could have been amazing, but also really risky. It's like we all have those moments where we're standing at the gate of our own whispering castle, trying to decide if it's worth the risk.
Yeah, and just like Mira, we have to choose, knowing that our choices will affect us and the people around us.
And that's what I love about the Whispering Castle. It makes you think about those big questions without giving you easy answers. It leaves you wondering about power and redemption and the impact of our choices.
So as we finish up this part of our deep dive, I keep picturing Mira in the middle of the castle, surrounded by shadows. What will she do? Will she escape Thalion, or will she get trapped forever?
And maybe the biggest question of all, the one we all need to ask ourselves, what would we do if we were in her shoes? Would we give in to fear, or would we fight back?
This deep dive has taken us into a world of magic and mystery, but also into the human heart. It reminds us that even in the darkest stories, there's always hope. There's always a chance for change. And as we leave the Whispering Castle behind, we're left with its whispers, making us think about the paths we choose in our own lives. Would you run away?
I don't know. It's tough, right? Like, Thalion is obviously dangerous, but then there's that part of you that just has to know more.
It's like those people who visit haunted houses. They know it's going to be scary, but they can't help themselves.
Yeah, it's that curiosity, the need to uncover secrets.
And speaking of secrets, what about that relic Mira is looking for?
Oh, yeah, that totally changes things.
Right. Like, what if it's connected to Thalion's curse somehow? Does he want to keep it hidden? Or could it be the key to breaking the curse?
So many possibilities. And I love how the podcast balances that personal story with this bigger mystery. Like there's something huge at stake. Maybe even the fate of the world.
Yeah. It's like we're only seeing a tiny part of the whole picture. The writers are so good at keeping us in suspense.
They know how to keep you hooked. You care about Mira, but you're also fascinated by the bigger story.
I'm definitely rooting for Mira. I want her to outsmart Thalion, to find out all the secrets and maybe even help him.
Me too. It's like she's the underdog in this crazy situation. And even though she's scared, you can tell she's not giving up. She's smart and resourceful, There are moments where you actually believe she can win.
But then Thalion does something that reminds you how powerful he is. He's always one step ahead, like he's playing a game with her.
It's so intense. You're constantly wondering who's going to win. Is Mira falling into a trap? Or is she figuring out how to beat him at his own game?
And then the episode just ends. Will she escape? Will she find the relic? What happens next?
I know. It's the worst kind of cliffhanger. And even if she does get away, don't you think the experience will change her? It feels like the Whispering Castle leaves its mark on everyone who goes there.
You know, that makes me think about how trauma works. Even if you escape a dangerous situation, the memories and the fear can stay with you forever.
That's a good point. The Whispering Castle isn't just a place. It's like a metaphor for our own internal struggles.
It's like the castle itself is a character, a reflection of Thalion's pain and regret, and it forces Mira to confront her own fears.
It's so clever how they use this fantasy story to talk about real human experiences.
We all have our own whispering castles, right? Those places inside us where we keep our secrets and our regrets.
Exactly. We may not be fighting wizards, but we all have to deal with the consequences of our choices and the possibility of darkness and redemption inside ourselves.
Think about a time you had to make a really tough decision, something that could have been amazing, but also really risky. It's like we're all standing at the gates of our own whispering castle sometimes, trying to decide if it's worth it.
It's true. And just like Mira, we have to choose, knowing that our choices will affect us and the people we care about.
And that's what makes the Whispering Castle so powerful. It makes you think about these big questions without giving you all the answers. It's about power and redemption and the impact of our choices. And it stays with you long after you finish listening, and it makes you wonder what she'll do next.
Right. Like, will she find a way to escape, or will she become part of the castle like Thalion?
It's almost like the castle itself is a mirror, reflecting Thalion's struggles, but also forcing Mira to face her own.
That's what's so cool about this podcast. It uses this fantasy world to talk about real human experiences.
Yeah. We all have our own whispering castles, those places inside us where we deal with our past and our regrets.
It's true. We might not be facing cursed wizards, but we all have to make tough choices.
And sometimes those choices have big consequences. We have to deal with ambition and the possibility of making mistakes.
It's like we all have that potential for darkness and redemption inside us.
And that's what makes the Whispering Castle so thought-provoking.
Yeah.
It leaves you with these big questions about power and redemption.
It makes you think about the choices we make and the impact they have.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I keep thinking about Mira standing in that castle. What will she choose? Will she escape? Or will she become another lost soul?
And what would we do if we were in her shoes? Would we give in to fear, or would we fight back?
This deep dive has been a journey into magic and mystery, but also into the human heart. It reminds us that even in the darkest stories, there's always hope, and that even in a cursed existence, there's always the possibility of change. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the Whispering Castle. We'll be back soon with another episode. Until then, keep exploring those whispering castles within yourselves, and remember, even in the darkest corners, there's always a chance for redemption.